Hello everyone, welcome back. It's so good to talk to you guys again. I am honestly so thrilled with this artwork. I am so happy with how it's turned out. I actually wanted to go a lot bigger for this, but then I ran out of paper. So I started unrolling the paper down the wall like I always do, and then I realized that that's all there was. So it ended up being a lot smaller. I started with this beige wash, and I've really been working on not overworking my backgrounds and also my portraits in general. So really leaving parts undone and just kind of leaving some texture, leaving parts that maybe aren't completely blended, and really just like loosening up a little bit, which is really hard because obviously when everything's really smooth and perfect, you feel like you've got some sort of control. But when you let things go and, allow room for spontaneity, it requires you to let go a little bit more and leave some of that up to chance, which can be a really, really hard thing to let happen. But I feel like that happened in this artwork. I painted it on horizontal, and then once it dried, I realized that I loved the composition vertically. I actually ended up composing the artwork so that she is leaning away from the drips. And once I created this background, I really left a lot of white and a lot of gaps in it, and you can kind of see where the ink has run down the paper and created some really cool marks and textural kind of outlines. I composed her body to be almost leaning away from the drips. I really feel like there's a balance towards that, with the ink getting pulled off in one direction and then she's leaning off in the other direction. And the technical aspects of this drawing were really hard. I found that it was a really, really difficult portrait to complete. And I think with my style at the moment, I'm trying to move away from that really polished, blended style that I have done a lot of in the past. At the moment, I'm loving creating a really smooth base and then going back in with texture and adding some sort of texture over the top. So I'm combining a scribble technique and a really blended technique, which is something that's really interesting to me at the moment. I love the way the background is really showing through in the portrait, and her figure is the main element of the drawing, but then as your eye moves around the artwork, you get kind of distracted by the background showing through in different parts, and that is something that's super interesting to me and something that you kind of have to sort through in your brain. Am I looking at the background or am I looking at the foreground? And I really, really love that whole idea at the moment. There's so many things as an artist I try to attempt in my drawings, and it's hard to say sometimes whether I've pulled it off. I have really managed to put something in my mind onto a paper, which can be really, really hard. It's probably the hardest thing that I do, is bringing something in your mind into reality. It often looks so much better in your head, and actually executing that and finding a way to do it can be really, really difficult, but I feel like that's something I've achieved here. Over the last few artworks, I feel like I've really stepped in the right direction, which is a relief, honestly. For a while there, I was feeling really nervous about the direction that my work was taking because I wasn't able to bring my ideas into the world in a way that I felt justified what I had envisioned in the beginning of the artwork, which can be a really frustrating thing to come up against time and time again as an artist. I think there was about 6 months where I didn't like anything I was drawing, and I still continued to post everything I was doing and share all of my drawings from that time, and that is a really hard thing to do, especially because I have such high standards already. Continuing to put work out that I actually wasn't really that proud of is a really hard thing to do. I think for me it's just an important process to share anyway. In the end, I'm so glad I still continued to show up and share that. And now coming into this year and I'm making work that I'm actually really loving, it just makes that whole journey so much more powerful, and I can share that side of how I was feeling with you now, although I could have shared it at the time, but I don't think it's as powerful when you share a story that isn't finished. And now I feel like I'm at a point where I can share some perspective on a time that maybe I didn't completely understand at the time. I'm really encouraged by how much you guys resonate with my drawings, so that's the one thing that keeps me coming back and keeps me kind of producing these videos. It's not actually about me, it's about you, which I love. I'm really excited about this drawing. I would love to hear what you guys think. Please make sure you subscribe. It really, really helps me out and it would really mean the world to me. If you're interested in learning how to draw like me, I have created an online course called the Ultimate Charcoal Techniques course, and it really just goes through everything I know about charcoal and graphite. It's all my blending techniques, all of my tools and materials, how I lay out my initial outline, the paper that I use, pretty much anything and everything. I think it ended up being about 18 chapters long, so it's really a big course, but each module is very short. I tried to keep the modules really short, sharp, and concise. Most of them are only about 3 minutes, but it's a really detailed look into what I do to create these artworks. I heard this great quote once that someone said, when you pay attention, and I think that is just so true. I have bought so many courses of my own in the past, and I've also had access to free courses, which I actually didn't really put as much effort in to learn the content, but when you pay for a course, you really do put the effort in to learn that skill and put that time aside. So if you are interested in taking my Ultimate Charcoal Techniques course, make sure you check out the link in the description. And if you're interested in purchasing any of my artworks or prints of my artworks, check out my website, which is also linked in the description. I hope you guys have an amazing week. I'll see you next week.
Have this new water feature.